Alright. I'm not good with introductions, period. Like, I don't even ask people their name when I meet them. I just start speaking to them. Like, I always begin the interaction without, hey, my name is so-and-so, what's your name? Because I've learned that once you really start getting into the conversation and the conversation good enough, you're not going to know the person. You're going to forget the name. You're always going to forget the name. So I've started putting the name. I'll start asking people's name, or people will start asking me my name at the end of the conversation, or like during the middle of the conversation, because it like, to kind of look at it like, if you not if you interest them or intrigue them enough, then they're going to want to know who are you. So at that point, then they're going to ask you the name or your name, or you're going to ask them your name. They like, what'd you say your name was again? And it's like, oh, okay. Or at the end of the conversation, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Boom. So that way, that's the last thing they remember. So it's going to be easier because they already had the emotions already like expressed or felt all the emotions from the interactions. And so now they need a place to store it. You know what I'm saying? So they store it in the back of their mind with a name attached to it. So now every time I see this person that's attached to this name, or I hear this name, all these different emotions and all these different thoughts and feelings are going to pop up, and that's what they're going to bring to the front of their mind. So that's why I'm not good with introductions, or I don't use introductions at all. So I want to talk about shadow work. Shadow work, or going through the beginning of your spiritual journey, right? How to discover, or how to know that that's what you're experiencing, because a lot of people don't know what's going on around them. A lot of people are starting to begin this journey. A lot of people are starting to experience they starting to experience the effects of the negative side effects of raising your consciousness. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people speak of it in a way as all the positive effects that come from raising your consciousness, all the things that you'll be able to do, all the things that you'll be able to see, all the things that you'll be able to know, all the things that you'll be able to accomplish, and all the fun shit, right? Very little do they talk about all the negative experiences and emotions that you have, but they classify it under a name called shadow work. So what is shadow work? What does that feel like? What is that experience like? You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's what the people need as some sort of guidance to understand, or a place where they can go to be able to, it's like almost like going through, it's almost like going to a therapist, but for spirituality, right? And there ain't no priest, there ain't no shamans, there ain't no elders in the community that really specialize at the shadows of spirituality, like how to navigate through the shadows and what to do to bring forth like that wisdom. They don't have that wisdom. So it's kind of like, so that's where a lot of people get lost at. So that's why I kind of want to talk about this video. How to know if, when you're in your shadow. It's not going to be a long one because I'm going to be efficient as possible. I begin with, it's a long journey, right? So the first things you'll start noticing is things will start going wrong. like not just one thing, but everything. Yo, and it's always at the point to where like a breakup, or you lose a job, or you just real down, or you feel depressed, or like you feel manic, your thoughts is manic, like a lot of people get anxiety from it, like all of these different type of negative emotions, like you'll begin to feel, but you won't begin to feel the negative emotions at separate points of time. You'll feel them like, well, how I felt them is like all at once. So all at once. So, and then once I start feeling these emotions, it's kind of like it's just always an internal question that always leaked into my mind. Is like, what the fuck it is that I'm feeling, like what it is that I'm feeling. So once I feel like this gonna sound like super duper fantasy like, but and once you ask that question, it kind of like it echoes into the ethers, and then echoes into the collective consciousness, right? And then what it is that you feeling is kind of like a key that unlocks like the shadow work journey, like boop, like once you unlock that key, then you it's like letting all the skeletons out your closet. Almost, that's really almost what it feels like. It's like you let all your skeletons out your closet, and then it's almost like if you okay, it's like one player mode on like those fighting games. It's kind of like when you got to fight all the people, and then once you get to the last level, you get the highest boss, and then once you get the highest boss and you beat that highest boss, then you win the game, right? So shadow work is kind of like you gotta really go through all your bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like you really gotta find out where everything went wrong in your life, and then what's going to happen is whatever you put in the most attention on, as far as like whatever your thoughts go to the most when they're idle, like wherever your thoughts guide to, like just without you controlling it, it just automatically go there. So let's just say, for instance, it's kind of like being cheated on, because I like to use real things. I like to use real things, right? So like I say, for like you've been cheated on or whatever, right? Or you've been not faithful, or somebody else not been faithful, and stuff like that, and then now you in a new relationship, right? So but your mind, your mental thought process is always, so you created a perception from always being cheated on, and then always cheating on somebody, and then being sneaky and shit like that. So you created a perception through the experiences that you had in your mind that created what you call like a negative thing, right? Or shadow, right? So then in order to overcome those experiences, something in the physical reality has to manifest for you in order for you to face those challenges or those shadows head on. So then you'll get into a relationship with another person, in the relationship with another person, to where like you'll have all of these feelings, right? You'll have all of these feelings for these, like for this woman or for this man, and they check off all your boxes or whatever, but there's this something in the back of your fucking mind that's being like, nah, I can't trust nobody, or I can't trust you, or I can't put nothing past this because this shit happened to me so much before in the past, right? And then it's kind of like a tug of war, but you got what's right in front of you. That's everything that you could ever possibly want, but in the back of your mind there's something that's stopping you, because like you just can't get your mind stuck off that type of shadow, right? So then what happens? So if you hold on to your old thought patterns, or the feelings and emotions that you created when you had those negative experiences, then they get the best of you, then you're going to self-sabotage or fail that test in the physical, and then that relationship is going to break up, right? And then everything is going to happen, or the same thing may happen. Like, you really may create the experience again to be cheated on, because you not putting your trust in this person, and because you always accusing, and because, you know what I'm saying, so you create, and so you sever that bond because of that experience, right? Okay, cool. Then still the same thing, still the same thing, still the same thing happening. You still got the same thought process. Now, because you had that experiences, it only going to further cement that feelings and emotions and experience that you have, or like the thought process, like not being able to trust, right? So boop, so then that experience, and then that thing, it gets bigger, it gets bigger, it becomes, takes over more part of your mind and reinforces it a lot more, right? So then you get another experience, same thing, you get another experience, same thing, right? So but this thing keeps getting bigger, it keeps getting bigger, and it keeps getting bigger. So at some point, when it gets big enough, it's going to explode. It's like a balloon. It's like when you're blowing up a balloon. It's going to explode if you put too much air into it, if you put too much thought into it, if you put too much feeling into it, if you put too much emotion into it. It's going to explode. And then an experience happen to the point to where, boom, everything shatters, right? And then so now you left with all this fucking, but instead of air being in the balloon, let's just say it's some type of paint, or like they used to do on one of them pop the balloon shows, whatever, right? Like one of those game shows on Nickelodeon that they used to do back in the day. So it's like that. And then now you got all of this slime everywhere. And then so now you really gotta, not all your pieces is broken, Humpty Dumpty fell on the wall, right? So now you gotta put your shit back together again. From the, now you really kind of gotta go into like the deep parts of yourself. And then that's when niggas start seeking therapy and shit. And then that's when niggas start like doing those type of things. So that's because like now, okay, now you gotta face this shit, because now, like, you tired of the fair relationships, you tired of you tired of being cheated on, you tired of doing all of these things. And then I'm using only relationships as a reference because this is where we at in society today, right? So it's like that's shadow work. That right there is shadow work. And then the shadow work is the kind of like you cleaning up the slime, right? Boop boop, you getting it all over where, then you mop all the slime up, right? And then now that the slime is off the floor, then you still left with those. That's kind of like, okay, like now you knowing the problem. Now you know the problem is like, boom, the slime is everywhere. Now how do I clean up this slime? So then you kind of go through a series of mental experiences or mental thoughts or things of that nature that's really going to like take you through to clean up the process, right? So then one step is, okay, identify. Now it's kind of like AA, right? The steps of AA. I don't know the steps of AA, but I know the steps of AA. Fun fact, AA was created in the 70s or the 80s when somebody did a psychedelic experience. I think it was LSD that they did. When they did LSD, after they came down off that trip, then they created Alcoholics Anonymous. That's crazy. But so you're cleaning up this, right? You're cleaning up the slime. Boom, you mop all the slime, you get it all in one place, right? Then you start doing whatever you use whatever you want to, just to just get as much of what you could off there, right? But then you notice you still left with little splatters on the wall. You still left with little stains on the floor from the slime, right? So then that requires a different set of tools, right, to clean that up. So then instead of the mop, now you may need like the spray stuff. Boop, you get the spray stuff with the little rag or whatever. Boom, now you start getting the shit off the wall. Boom, 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 boom. But then, okay, cool, now you got to get the stain off the floor. Now you hit the floor with whatever you need to hit the floor with. You clean that up. Boom, boom, boom. Then once you clean that up, now you looking at this place, right? And then you start looking around, and then next thing you know, there's like residue and then bleach stains and then all this other shit that's left from you popping a balloon. So you're like, damn, I gotta create a whole nother, I gotta repaint my crib. Damn, or I can't pop no balloons or whatever, stuff like that. Butterfly just passing by. So now you know what it takes. So now you know the effects of blowing up the balloon too much and it popping, right? Basically, now you knowing, now you know if you go too far with a situation, now you know what's going to come. Now you got all this experience. You got the slime everywhere. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do this. Now you're at the point to where you got to fucking repaint and redecorate your whole shit. Then you come to the choice, right? Then here's the biggest test, right? The biggest test is choosing not to do it again, or just like going about a different option, because now you got to go back. So now it requires it. Now you got a whole different path you got to walk. Now you kind of got to go to Home Depot. Now you kind of got to go to the furniture store. If you're going to repaint, you definitely going to redecorate. So now you got to go to the furniture store. Now you got to work with an interior designer. Now you got to know how to, okay, like now you may want to hang some art. Now you got to process, okay, what is this new mood? What is this new experience? What is this new mindset that I'm in? Because the only thing you used to is that old type of way of thinking. So now you have to now you have to discover that for yourself, and that's going to take time too. You see what I'm saying? So and then you got to start from the smallest place and you got to work your way up. So that's shadow work. It ain't really something they be trying to make it seem like it's like, they don't try to make it seem like it's anything. I just don't think they just have the words necessary or analogies enough to explain it in a practical way without using all of those scientific and those spiritual words that people get, like that you lose people in. So once you start getting spooky and stuff, you lose people, because people have already been programmed through the church to kind of like to when they hear these words to automatically detach themselves, or automatically to be like, nah, I don't mess with that type of stuff. So if you really want to help a people, I get it, for your own sake of consciousness and for your way of saying like, yo, this is right and that's wrong, I'm going to use these words. But at the same time, if you want to get to more people, you have to speak their language. In order to speak their language, not just words that come out, but feelings, thoughts, and emotions. So you have to know what they're going through. You got to be not only just empathetic, but you got to be sympathetic. And the only way to be sympathetic is to be able to know what that person is going through. Not just, and then wisdom comes into play, but if you want something to stick to a person, it has to be something of substance. It's the same thing as food. You see what I'm saying? So if you want the food to be healthy and to stick, it has to be of substance. It has to be backed by something that's connected to something far much greater than you.